Hello everyone, it's Ishuali and I'm here with my friend Sampi and we're gonna be filming a podcast episode that just talks about my general journey and interest in Ifa and Orisha spirituality. So I hope you enjoy this series. It's gonna be a podcast series where I just talk about different experiences I have and different insights I'm having and just sharing bits of pieces of my journey with you. Obviously, spirituality is a very personal thing, so I'm not going to be able to share everything, but the bits of which I can share to help other people that, are by themselves trying to seek that connection with God. I feel like, I just want to share and just help them be on that journey. So, hope you enjoy.
Moment. So could you tell us again how you got in from the start and what you went through?
Okay.
What drew you to it initially before the initiation process?
Okay, so what drew me to it? So, initially, what it boils down to was just wanting to have a deeper connection with self. I feel like, surprisingly enough, Beyonce was a very big inspiration to me. Just seeing her work on like Black is King and just the messaging and Black excellence that she would promote and how she was always linked to spirituality. And I remember she had a music video called Hold Up, in which she portrays one of the Yoruba deities for her album Lemonade. She represents Oshun, and I thought it was such a beautiful representation, and it was the first time in pop culture that I'd seen my original culture be represented and shown. I feel like just me being a Nigerian or growing up as Nigerian, I always looked outside for what I felt was morality or standards of living or these different things. So being able to see one of my childhood musicians that I used to listen to, being able to see her talk about it indirectly was a big inspiration. And also, I'm a polyglot. I like learning languages. So when I learned Spanish and speaking to a lot of people from South America and just realizing that they know more about Yoruba religions and traditions than a lot of African people, if you ask any of my cousins to name 5 Orisha, they would be struggling to do so. So that was the main inspiration behind what drew me to it. And just being in majority white spaces and not feeling connected to anything around me and just wanting to connect to something deeper than myself that didn't negate my identity at the same time. Yeah, that was a lot.
It's a podcast, so.
Yeah.
How did you go about seeking out the start of it then?
So how did I go about it? Mainly, I found this YouTuber called Aduwala, the Oracle, and another one called Alashola, Herbs and Spiritual. And I would just watch their videos and I would just research a lot about it, try and read online PDFs about the religion or tradition, I would say, to just get a general feel of what I wanted to get myself into. I felt like at first it was more of an academic pursuit. I didn't necessarily see myself initiating. I just wanted to just educate myself. But in terms of when I wanted to take it a bit more seriously, that in of itself was a lot of journeys. I met some people through social media that I'm no longer in contact with. I met people through social media that I still speak with but are not my main priests. And I've had my ups and downs with these people that I met through social media. So I would say the changing point or the turning point for me taking it really seriously was when I did a Yoruba language course in the University of Lagos, and one of the professors there who works with local priests was able to direct me towards someone in Ibadan that helped me do my initiation process.
What are some of these ups and downs with the other people on social media?
Just a lot of false representation. Like, a proper babalawo, which is the term that we use for priest, of Ifa, they're not really going to be advertising their services or saying, hey, come initiate with me. That's not necessarily, they're not going to be in your DMs and send like repetitive messages like that. So just small red flags to look out for. I even remember, I'm not going to say which YouTuber, but one YouTuber recommended a priest or had an interview with a specific priest on one of their videos. And I watched this video and I contacted that specific priest, and I found out that that person is pretty much a scammer. Although I'm not surprised that the person that interviewed them in their channel didn't realize this. So I've just had my ups and downs with being too trusting. I've had people that maybe have been knowledgeable about the tradition but haven't been an initiated priest, and these protocols, some people may say that they're insignificant in this new age way of thinking, but they're very important, and these protocols are super important. So I've met with people that, and I've trusted and placed people on a pedestal that didn't have the authority that they claim to have within the tradition. So I feel like that's a big deterrent in a lot of people going towards a religion, because it's kind of like, it's very hard to get in, and it's like these dubious middlemen that we're putting in between us and God. It can be very frustrating to deal with.
But even now, with your current priest, in any dynamic like that, there's a lot of trust that has to be placed. Still, you talk about how, I don't know how else to put it, but some information is withheld from you. And how do you contend with that, and knowing that that's the right thing for you?
I feel like with this tradition, it's all about going at your pace. You don't become a priest overnight. So with this initiation I've done, although yes, I have a title of a priest, I'm still a student. I'm still learning. I didn't magically download all the information that I'm supposed to know. So there's certain ways in which priests will pace you with information, and every priest is different. They're going to do things differently. I have just tried to focus on the things I can control and the things that, so what I would focus on, for example, is my own direct connection with my altar, and making sure I pray frequently and connect with my deities myself, so I don't have that middleman. It's, for me personally, I just don't like that idea that I have to consult someone else to talk to God. So, yeah.
But you do have to.
You do have to. You do have to, because no man is born with all this knowledge, so you have to learn and put your faith in other people. But there are ways in which you can pray by yourself. Maybe if you want to get more detailed information about what's going on in your situation, then you would need to go to a priest. But there's, as a initiate at least, there's always ways in which you can do things yourself and build that connection yourself.
I mean, something that may have been helpful is knowing more people in your circumstance to at least exchange.
Definitely, I'm one of the only people in my circles that I know of that practice this. Even to have this conversation, like you yourself, you're from Hong Kong, and you aren't of this culture, and I'm able to have this conversation with you, which I'm grateful for. But there's a lot of people that Nigerians that shy away from this conversation because of how stigmatized it is.
How did it become stigmatized?
That there's so many different reasons for that, but I can argue, if off the top of my head, colonization, also representation in the media and Nollywood. It's kind of presented as an evil thing or a twisted thing. Yeah.
So I don't know much about Nigeria. What's the religion in place of that than Christianity?
So yeah, Christianity or Islam, pretty much. I would say almost split 50-50 between those. And then, yeah, the traditional religion is it's not a lot of people. Growing up, I didn't know anyone that practiced that, and the people that did practice were kind of like socially outcast from the circles that I was in.
I mean, I think any culture has this right to learn more about where they came from, but besides even that as an incentive, do you think Ifa has more to offer than those two religions?
I feel like depending on the person, but for a lot of young Nigerians, yes, I feel like it does. And for a lot of black people around the world, because it's all about character, it's all about self-empowerment, it's all about connecting to your ancestors. And a lot of black people around the world, we don't have that strong connection with our ancestors. If you look at people in the diaspora or people that have been affected by slavery, that connection with their ancestors were kind of stolen from them, and the recent history that they do have is a very traumatic one. And even if you look at people in the continent that haven't been necessarily affected by slavery, maybe they've been affected by colonization, even in these people, you'd find that because our histories as Yoruba African people are usually an oral history, a lot of these things get lost. So my parents didn't really know much about their ancestry beyond their own grandparents. There's not a strong genealogy culture within Nigeria at the moment. So yeah, I feel like it provides you with that sense of identity and connection, not just to yourself, but also to your environment and nature, and just understanding that a lot of these things that we see in our day-to-day life, they're not just these things are ancient, and these things have wisdom and can guide us. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are moving towards Eastern spiritualities, and I feel like a lot of the things that they're seeking in those spiritualities that they can find in Ifa.
What's it helped you most with thus far?
I would say the thing that has helped me the most with is not feeling alone. I was raised Christian by a mother who's a minister, and I remember just praying to God and feeling that sense of connection. And one thing through growing up, just me becoming disillusioned with that religion, I kind of lost that connection with the divine. And now I feel most empowered knowing that I have these forces of nature behind me, and I can talk to them, and I can laugh with them, I can giggle with them. It's such a empowering feeling just knowing that I'm not alone. And I think that's the one thing that I've learnt the most from my mum and her spirituality, because you might argue that, if her son is practicing a different spirituality than her, then surely, or some people can have their own opinions or judgments about that. But I think my mum, just watching her wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to pray to God and have that connection, and just things that she would teach me, that there's no one that you can go to more than God. And I feel like that's just, so I don't know, I feel like those ways have helped me, and that's even a funny way in which my Christian upbringing has helped me as well.
Do you think being part of the diaspora has driven you towards seeking this out more, because you talk about being more alone there? Whereas
definitely
for people back at home, you talk about how they've shied away from it. Is an element there? Is there an element of plaster on an axe wound? I've got people around me, but I'm not having that deeper connection, as I could be.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a big reason, another thing that drew me in was that I was one of the only black people in a lot of the spaces I were in. Like, for example, you and I went to university together, so you knew what the environment was, and just not seeing any positive or any representations of myself had a big impact on me. And so to be able to learn about it, Ifa, from an academic perspective at first was very healing, I would say, because I was able to see the beauty and mysticism within my being, in a way that I haven't been able to up until that point, because any example of mysticism or that I would accept had always been Eastern. It's never been from my own culture.
What were some of those like bad representations?
Oh, bad representations of Ifa?
Oh, you said of, is it black people? You said,
Oh,
say at uni and such.
just what were some of those bad representations? I would say just general stereotypes that impact daily interactions, I would say.
Is this other people?
Other people, yeah. So just being in that environment in which I feel like I'm in a silent battlefield where I'm being gaslit consistently and having nothing to... and just feeling like my identity, everything about my blackness was holding me back or a negative in my environment. I feel like me connecting with a black spirituality really helped ground me.
All right, I think that sounds like a good place to end.
Yeah, thank you so much for being open-minded, and even though you're not from this culture, just wanting to learn more and be part of our journey on connecting more with our roots and heritage.
It's all good. Thanks for sharing.